Should be an interesting one to open up these semi-finals. Remember, folks, there's a single E-limb, so you lose here. You are aus. Alvida-san, you will not make it to the finals. Fat Penguin and Free Beavers and Turkey are going to take the field, and opening up, it is going to be the Canadian bros representing the Beavers and the Turkey. With Puppy Paw on his Ottomans, I just mentioned something that he was actually a trendsetter for in the early days of this Civ. And up against on the other side, we are going to see LoueMT and CsOH opening up for Fat Penguin.
Indeed, some differences when it comes to the civilization lineup over here. Remember, folks, that you are somewhat restricted when it comes to selecting civilizations for the upcoming games, so you have to be cautious, especially for best of 7. Any civilization that you use here in game number 1 will be unavailable until you depleted the whole roster of civilizations. But looks like the common ground seems to be the Mongols for both. Possibly double trading is what we're seeing here in the next few minutes.
Interesting idea, although it's not usually the build we see Ottomans go for. Even in 2v2s, they're still leaning heavily towards that heavy archer comp build we saw in Wallalaw and the 1v1 tournaments. And that leans towards going for the Madrissa, simply because it guarantees you enough food to support that build long term, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if Wham considers trade though, and Puppy Paw, one cool thing you can do, as you can in team games, is you can wall for that Mongol player to secure his trade.
You don't just simply can think about walling it, you have to think about walling for it, because that trade is just so vital, and you're likely going to have trade coming out from CsOH as well on the other side. I think the intriguing element is going to be that when you look at Louis, he's playing with the English, and as you said, Puppy could likely go for the archer build with the Ottomans, so we could have some slow-moving armies on the battlefield, whereas for the Mongols, they may not even field a lot of army at the beginning, because they might just focus on the trade. So in a sense, this could easily be a slow start for both teams, allowing the Mongols to trade boom.
Exactly, and just something to quickly point out, as these steep people have probably noticed by now, this is not a best of 57. We do want to go to sleep tonight, because our family a good night and not have nightmares about AOE4. These are best of 7s for the semi-finals. Best of 9 for the grand final next weekend. So just to clear that up for people. What that means from the Civ flip and reset point you were talking about, you know, unless you 4-0 wipe a team here, there is going to be a Civ reset, right? You're going to get an opportunity to come again and change strategies, which I love to see.
Yeah, if it was a best of 7, what do you think the score would be?
So if it was only a best of 7, I mean, the score would be like maybe, I think this series to me, maybe 4-1. But if it's a best of 57 Lidakor, I mean, that changes my answer entirely. Maybe like 20, like, wait, what do we need at that point? We need 28? 29.
29.
29, yeah. So 20, I'd say 29 to 7.
Ooh, that's a rough one. So you think there's a massive edge for the Beavers? I did not expect that. I was like,
I didn't say Beavers. Lidakor, you said Beavers. Okay, I'm not gonna get on the wrath, because I'm sure there's plenty of Chinese fans in the chat, right? That's one cool thing to see here coming in the semi-finals, is that we have a Chinese team representing. In fact, at the start of this tournament, we had 2 Chinese teams and a Korean team. I'd say fairly underrepresented regions turning up this tournament.
yeah, for sure. And right now, many fans are rooting for this Chinese team with Louis, CsOH, Neptune, as you said. It's just such a cool Cinderella story what they have here. They went on overlooked team when it comes to the qualifiers. They got through the group stage, and now they're playing against some of the most elite players on the planet. You talk about players that were all present in Heidelberg at the LAN. This is like unbelievable experience for them, and it's such a cool story to look at.
Absolutely, and you said Cinderella story. Well, it looks like Cinderella won't even get to put on those pretty shoes this time around. Louis just trying to move out the men-at-arms, always being nipped at the heel of. Love this opening coming up from Free Beavers in Turkey. They've actually practiced this. I believe they executed it up against the Kimchi Jjigae enjoyers, where you go for, it was these 2 civs, and you just mass spears, and you force your opponents to engage in that as well. It's problematic, though, for the English, because in small abundances, they can match you with men-at-arms, but they can't go for spears themselves, right? So eventually they're going to be at a deficit when it comes to the food investment compared to a Mongol Ottoman player. Of course, the Ottoman player getting it for free.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the read in this one, as we do have a bit of a scuffle over here. Men-at-arms actually getting repelled. Spearman Micro, this is going to be critical over here. For the time being, numbers seem to favor Puppy and Wham, though.
Heavily. It's such a frustration for Louis. Louis chose to try and tech up. You can see the difference here that's happening is Puppy Paw is lingering longer in this Dark Age. He's finally going up. He'll be the last one to do so. But if they can burn out the Racks, take out the Uvu, it's going to be worthwhile. Racks especially here, Lidakor. If they get rid of that, none of these Spearmen are getting upgraded.
Yeah, for sure. Look at that. They even intercept the men-at-arms. Those are just battered to oblivion. And I love the read that they went for such an aggressive play with the Spearman. Keep in mind that if the English player just went straight feudal, this would have been completely useless. But they saw the man-at-arms, and they said, okay, this is going to delay the feudal age timing of the English player. We have a window to strike with our Spearman. Looks like the upgrade is gonna finish before the barracks will be burned down, so at least there's a silver lining to that.
Yeah, interesting choice to kind of prior the Uvu. You have to look at that bar. Think about this. The Uvu was already damaged. If they went for the racks, you'd probably see that tech up complete just before they'd be able to burn down the racks. And that racks is not long for this world. They try to pack it up, move it away, but just look at the count right now. 24 military pop cap in total, and about 20 of them here. They get the pinch on the racks. That's going to be another 150 wood down the drain for the Mongol player. A Mongol player who did go for the silver tree. He was hoping to be greedy in this game, and I don't see how he's going to get a chance to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not even the barracks going down, because at the end of the day, he probably didn't plan to make a lot more Spearmen anyways. It's about the fact that the Uvu is now gone as well, and as you said, he wanted to be greedy, but right now he's got zero map control, and it's essentially back to the drawing board right now for CSO.
Oh man, and you know, we don't often see this because usually Lombos, the time they come out, they kind of match the count. But similarly to when we talk about crossbows as a counter to men-at-arms and knights, you need enough of them, right? Like, you don't just build one and it's not a nuclear bomb on the counter unit. This many spears will make Louis' initial opening this feudal age incredibly uncomfortable.
For sure. And right now, if you take a look at what's being done by CSO, it's only a handful of Spearmen, one Manga die, that's it. The bigger concern, I think, is that the barracks gone. This basically means that you can go very heavily on the Sipahi side of things with Puppy Paw's army, and you can just wipe out most of those longbows. So the English player has to be really careful here, because there's going to be little Spearman support from the teammate.
Do you get tempted? You see it right there, right? The Uvu next to the silver tree. Maybe a bit of trade. No, he knows he can't do that. Instead, though, he has to go for someone that will make him wish he had trade. He's going for Magadai as an open here, a very costly investment for CSO, especially if we see Puppy Paw do what most Omen players do and mix in those archers next.
It's worse than that. Those are Mangadai made without an Ovu, so you're paying full price for each of those. Yep. 120 food and 40 gold apiece, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh boy, and I do believe it's coming, the double archery range drop. So as expected, Puppy Paw is going to be making that transition. Wham, in the meantime, might consider just going full greed into a castle up while the Ottoman player covers him. It's a very solid and effective combo they've executed before. One that it's going to be difficult for Louis especially to keep up with, because your English player can't freely boom. He now has to provide protection. You need a lot of Magadai to be the dictator in the field if you're CSO.
Yeah, for sure. It's only 3 Mangadais on the playing field. Look at that. Every single one of those traders already bringing back 200 plus gold. That's going to be enough to get to castle, and you see the English player is just very much mispositioned here, partly thanks to the fact that he's got a slow-moving army. So, as you said, this could easily be exploited with an early castle age by Wham.
And notice, like, the way that this map has generated has actually been beneficial for that, because the neutral trade post is in the western corner. It means even if you spot the trade early on, by the time you intercept the English player, that trade caravan is already on the other side of the map, right? Further away from you. It means you're at least guaranteed your initial drop-off, which is what Wham will need for that castle age we've been talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And this is why CSO is trying to dive in over here with the Mangadai. He knows the approximate positions of those traders, needs to do something with those Mangadai. He's going to target the gold miners, though.
It's working.
Good picks.
Yep, 3 villagers just go down like that. Outposts take too damn long to build. And the Spearmen, well, they're just going to be caught chasing their own tail here. Never able to catch up to the Magadai. They need the archers, they need them stat. But right now, Puppy Paw has to clash on the north side. Louis did skirmish towards him. Horsemen are going to get the perfect pinch. So it looks like Louis is going to lose the entire Lombo battalion. There's not much behind this either.
Yeah, that's scary for Louis right now. CSO is doing a great job on the right side. It's just the fact that his teammate is kind of left alone on the other. And if this tower is completed, it's going to be much more difficult for those Mangadai to accomplish anything. And you see CSO right now somewhat struggling to find a target to aim on.
Absolutely. And, you know, it does hurt Wham losing the initial troops like that, but if he builds more trade, it'll cover him. Needs to be a little bit careful about that trade, though, right? Now that he sees Magadai, that's a raid-type unit that will intercept any trading you attempt to do. So it might be that he doesn't invest in more traders yet. Instead, he looks for that castle age timing, and then he can assess what he needs. It might even be that he goes towards something like crossbows, and him and Puppy Paw try to join up in the center for a slow push.
At this stage, I could even imagine him going for Mangadai himself. There's a massive power spike with the Mangadai going into Castle Age. And right now, it's essentially left versus left, right versus right. Poppy is playing a quasi 1v1 against Louis on the northern side. You could do the same on the south with your own Mangadai, but instead, it is going to be a cavalry-focused approach. Could even be Horsemen at this pace, although seeing that Stepper Doubt going up, I would think about Lancers more than Horsemen.
Yeah, because Mangadai are still going to do quite well against the Horsemen, simply because, you know, if you achieve a similar tech up at CSO and you set up 1 or 2 outposts, even though you've gone for Silver Tree, Yam is going to affect your cavalry, right? You don't even have to buy the upgrade for 350 resources. So that's always something to consider. It means that Horsemen on the offensive won't be able to punish these Mangadai when they're defending.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a matter of choosing between mobility and armor, and in the current
if
situation,
you don't have mobility, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Why would do it?
Exactly. Like, you're just gonna prefer armor. Slow and steady, the Mangadai numbers are growing, but it's still only 9 of them. And the bigger concern is that those will be Feudal Age Mangadai matched up against Castle Age units soon.
Yeah, which means, to translate that into simple terms, y'all be tickling, and that's all you're doing. I mean, Mangadai, the 7 damage seemed good when they were sniping those villagers, but it doesn't really hold up against, say, a Lancer that has 4+ ranged armor. Most of your damage is just gone at that stage on a 230 HP unit.
Exactly. We already have...
The other thing I was worried. Like, the Ottomans, right? Like, so far, Louis has been keeping Poppy Paw out of the mixer, but look at the difference in armies, range-wise. Right, this is almost a triple up by Poppy Paw, which means now he can bully the Mangadai away as well.
Yeah, now Castle Age is coming in for CSO, and one thing that we should not overlook is the amount of traders that we have. The efficiency is much higher for WAM, but he only has 5 traders as compared to 13 for CSO. So the two things kind of offset each other, and that's why he can catch up in Castle Age timing.
Yeah, but the problem is if his trade's going to last very long, because the Ottoman player can at least apply a lot of pressure. Looks like he was a little bit out of position there with the meta and the small group archers, so we'll look to regroup. A little bit of greed coming out from Poppy Paw, was trying to split his attention between mid-map and the base of the English. But once he regroups to that main force, he can just block this trade, right? He can just park himself in the center, and the Lombo count is nowhere near big enough to punish this. They do at least snipe out the meta, though, and that will slow down Poppy Paw's approach.
Yeah, the big question is what you're gonna do against that group of archers, because that's the big question mark. Ooh, nice little snipes out there as well from the Horsemen.
Does WAM... Oh, okay, so remember, WAM doesn't have the Khan here. Otherwise, what he would have noticed, those traders are just AFK, outside of range of the TC. So that would have been an easy snipe for him, but obviously unaware of that right now. We have God Vision. Louis, in the meantime, is looking godly as he reaches Castle Age. So it's double castle versus a single. Poppy Paw is still lagging behind. Continues the investment in archers. He needs to try and keep this Lombo ball oppressed before it gets upgraded and bolstered up to similar counts.
If these archers can take off a couple of traders here, this is going to be good value for them. But if they end up being cleaned up, this could be a completely terrible story, actually, here for Poppy Paw and WAM. Looks like they're going to stand strong, though. You don't want to sacrifice your Mangadai fighting them.
Yeah, the problem is the Lancers are now here. This would have been a great fight if it wasn't for the perfect time of WAM to finally arrive. And now there's enough archers left to keep the Mangadai away. Not enough horsemen to really threaten either. Lombo count is looking baby level right now. And instead, it looks like Louis is trying to go for a mass men-at-arms strategy. A bold strat to take when WAM already has this sort of cavalry lead, almost at 10 Lancers.
Yeah, it's really paying off right now for Poppy Paw to invest into so many archers. They catch the opponents off guard over here, and now archer number is really dominating the battlefield here. Men-at-arms, as you said, they are making an appearance, but it's so many Lancers already for WAM. We're looking at 10 Lancers versus just 3. Overall, 50 army against 20, and this is going to be a very tough hold to make for Louis and CSO.
Now, Louis is up to 4 racks. He's almost at Burgrave levels of production here. And remember, those men-at-arms do come out incredibly fast for the English. It's every 15 seconds, so it's not going to take him long to amass an army. My bigger worry is if they don't hold here, these farms get idled. And then you can't afford the mass men-at-arms strategy here.
It's getting worse than that. Most of the traders have been picked off, so all the nominal eco lead that they had is pretty much gone. Sacrifices had to be made here, and you feel that even if they clean this up, the setback might be just too big to overcome.
I mean, just look at the difference here. There's still more army to come. Poppy Paw, he's got a total of 32 archers. Most of them are not here. If you look on the mini-map, you can see the Congo line. They say there's a party in Louis' base and we want a part of it. Meanwhile, Mangadai count has been shrunk to nothing. It doesn't exist. It merely tickles. Can't help but feel at this point, any men-at-arms that do manage to get out from Louis' base are instantly going to be role-playing the game as hedgehogs because they're going to be so full with arrows.
Yeah, and as you said, they're heavily armored, but you're talking about 30+ archers over here, and the meta is not even buffing them. Khan is gonna get picked off, Trade has been taken down, and that's it. What a game.
No way back. What a game indeed. I mean, this area on our screen right now was the critical ingredient. 3 Beavers and a turkey, they built their own type of dam to stop the gold flowing into Fat Penguin's base. Unlimited push from cheap units. Spears into archers really dictate this game, and it shows you why 3 Beavers and a turkey should be respected and feared.
It's the game of timings. Louis decided to go into CsOH. They felt like they have a window. Little did they know that they were outnumbered very heavily when it comes to the archers on the field, and this was read perfectly by Poppy and Wham. Poppy just stuck in Feudal Age, and every single bit of resource that he got was turned into archers, as compared to Louis, who just spent tons of resources on going up to CsOH for little gain at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? Like, I see what Louis' goal is, but he doesn't really have enough farms to support that many racks. I mentioned that the English push out men-at-arms very quickly. They do, incredibly fast, in fact, right? They've got a quicker production speed than everyone else. But the problem is they're 100 food each. The burden on your economy is overwhelming. And another issue for him is he started to build his farms central and south side behind his base, right? Which means he's closer to this archer raid coming in from Prizepool.